All right. I am going to call the Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee of August 4th, 2021 to order. Roll call, please.
Committee member Henry,
Here.
committee member Cutler,
Here.
committee member Hillebrand, committee member Hicks, trustee Thuzius,
Here.
president Lingfeld.
Here. All right, we'll go to public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the Finance Advisory Enhancement Committee. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes while the Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee encourages input from residents that may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. I don't believe there's anybody else logged in, is there?
There's not, and I did not receive anything ahead of time.
Okay. So we'll go to general business, discussion and possible approval of the July 7th, 2021 Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. All right, we'll go to leaf pickup program update. Here's where we are right now. The machine has been fixed up, tuned up, and we may pick up the vacuum next week. It is extremely unlikely that we'll run pilot program number 1, which is the test area of picking up leaves. The tornado has just really put a burden on Public Works, and they'll be down two people by next weekend, I think. And we've had the jobs listed and we've had nobody apply yet. So I think we can pretty much put the first pilot program on hold. Hopefully we'll get it going next year. I think the pilot program 2 is probably even more critical to get that to float. So we will start really trying to educate, and just to remind the group, that's the one where we try to have residents separate leaves from other yard waste like garden stuff, so they can use the vacuum on the leaf side. And what makes this, I feel, very important is it will speed up the process than using a front end loader. Plus the leaves are chopped up. So according to Jerry, we should be able to get almost twice as much into a load. So we'd be making half the number of trips to the compost site. So I think it's really important that we move forward on that one, but the first one we're just going to put on hold. Just can't pull it off, unfortunately.
So point of clarification, you're saying the actual like neighborhood pickup stuff is on hold, but the site where they would bring it, they were going to use the machine and the vacuum to chop it up and cut down on the loads?
Yes. Remember, we had 2 pilot programs, one. Yeah. So the second one we're going to try to still do, because that would be very beneficial to the village.
I mean, they have to do that anyway, so.
Well, no, like myself, I used to mix. I used to pull stuff out of my garden and throw it in the trailer with a bunch of leaves. What we'd be asking now is not to do that, that I would bring one load down for garden waste, another load of just leaves. It's not going to be that, for me, it's not going to be that much of a inconvenience, it's just a little bit more planning, that's all. But there's a lot of people that just bring leaves, like you say, so that'll work. Any other questions on that? All right. Number 3, discussion and possible action on the property tax levy presentation. Jed and I got together. We streamlined the presentation. I think we took comments from the last meeting, incorporated them, And then we also incorporated the expense graph that we had and the revenue spreadsheet into this. And then I did one more matrix. I don't know if you noticed on where the property comes from, the assessment part of it, percent of what's coming from business, manufacturing, and residential on that. So I think we've got a good rounded comparison to at least have the village board have some discussion. So I guess you've seen that. I guess if you have questions for Judd and I, we'll try to answer them. Otherwise, we're looking to move this forward onto the board.
Could you go up, Bobby, to the goal, please?
Yep.
I suggest we change farm to fair.
Okay. Really? Oh, come on. Good catch, Kevin. Anything else we threw in there? We were just testing to see if anybody read these.
I read it. I even caught that on my phone. Yeah, I guess I'll say, I'll save my speech that I talked about last time for the board meeting, but I think the next step for me is more important than this step, which is what are we getting from this? What are we getting from what's the value we're getting out of it?
Look, I have no concerns with doing something like that, but I don't think it's related to this topic. This is an educational, what people are willing or wanting for service and what they're willing to pay for, or how strong they feel about certain services. I think that would be extremely valuable for the board, but I think you're mixing too much. This is basically just on the levy, just like the wheel tax. That's how I'm looking at this. I would love, that one's going to be a little bit more difficult, I'm guessing, but it's part of our mission to do community-wide surveys. And that to me would be the best tool to use for what I believe you're looking for. Anybody else? All right, then, do I have a motion to accept this report and move it on to the board?
So motioned.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same.
Aye.
Okay, so that was Kevin then, right?
Yep.
Okay, so it
Good.
still carries.
Yep.
All right. Let's go to the next is the discussion on capital improvement plan. And I guess the discussion is not on the items for today. The discussion is what we want to do and have and what future discussions. So when this was put into our area, it was not for the upcoming year. It would be, so in this case, it would be for the 2023 to 2026. And I think the one area that they were looking at is just for citizens take a look at it and maybe have comments on it, or if people have suggestions on maybe how to fund them or an alternative, that's what this would be. But again, this one part was not real well defined. So I think there is some movement on what we want to do with this. I don't want to go through the items because you just received it. We can do that at a future time. But I guess I'm interested in what the committee would basically like to do with this.
So are you asking us to kind of pick which ones we want to move forward or try to find a way to finance, or what's the goal here?
Well, that's what, no, my question is, what do you think the goals should be? From when this was discussed at the board and this committee was formed, this was going to be shared with this committee from, not the items that are be discussed this year for next year, but the following years. And then suggestions were made. Well, you get another set of eyes looking at it. Or, maybe there's other funding sources or other ideas on that, or just, hey, why are we doing this? Why is it needed? Why aren't we doing this instead? So it's just, that's what, it wasn't well defined. So that's what the reason it's on here is, just bouncing out some ideas. What do you guys think we should do with this?
I think
That
in
it for
part
the-
it goes back to how many of these do we actually have money for? I mean, I would assume. I mean, like the electric poll books, those are coming one way or another. We won't have much choice in that because I know they're already in a lot of other communities. But so that's probably an expense that we will get whether we like it or not. But like a lot of these park ones, is this all fundraising or is there money for it already or?
Well, that's a hard question. It's not like we have money in the bank that we can pay. Obviously, where this would be coming in, as you can see on the far right, where it says proposed source, it's, when it says borrowing, that means exactly that, borrowing the money, and then it would eventually, the payments come on debt service.
When I think about this process of how we got here, and maybe that's important to just touch on, in case some folks don't know. These items came from the department heads mostly, and the department heads would put their. I mean, they've already done prioritizing. They've done, they've talked to their committees, they've talked to their staff, and they've put together proposals. And the board, to some degree, Jay, maybe you more so to a degree, and Bill possibly, sort of, and with the recommendations and working with the department heads, we're able to put those in sort of a prioritized form. This year A, B, C, D, E, or year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think that's how we got to this point. And then the next step is the board looking at it and making decisions based on what, right? On that process so far. So in between those 2 points, from the department heads putting in the data, they're making their, I guess, proposals, and the board making a decision, I guess that's where we are, right? And my thought would be, what then can we do to help the board make an informed decision? And to that end, I would say that we could dig into the weeds a little bit on some of these. Plus, we've got until we basically have a year, because we're not going to mess with 2022. We basically have a year to do that. And I think we can go section by section or topic by topic, or however we want to do it, and start saying or asking questions of possibly of the department heads, of Bobby or Bill, whoever else, and dig a little deeper and see if we can, tighten up the numbers, see if they're still interested in those things, see if their priorities are still changing during this process, and then putting forth to the board when it's ready a year from now, saying, hey, we've done a lot of that lifting, because it would take us 3 months before. We've done a lot of that lifting, board. Hopefully you accept what this committee has done to get to these, to these high priority, what will be 2023 at the end of 2022.
I like that idea. What are other people's feelings?
That sounds good.
I mean, I feel like since we're just getting this, I mean, we should probably concentrate on the stuff for, the newest stuff or the stuff that's coming up soonest rather than focusing on the later things. So I would look at 21, 22, 23, I guess it's all 22 stuff. And start with that and start breaking it down and figuring out, some of the things.
Yeah, the 22 is off for this committee for this year because that was one of the deals that we wouldn't do the current year. So
Okay.
the first year we'd be looking at is 2023. And that would be decided a year from now. So that's where Kevin's saying we have a year to
Okay.
work on it.
I'd throw in some of the bigger topics, like the pool is always brought up, and even though that one I think is past 2023, it is one that comes up in almost every discussion. So getting started on that topic would probably be helpful to Mike to at least say it's being looked at here.
Well, it is in the 2023, the 2023
okay.
as a feasibility study
I thought it was
slash
later.
plan.
Well,
planning.
that's the big problem with the pool is the pool, at least conceptually, was planned along with the village hall and the police department. That was all going to go in this land behind my neighborhood. And so
Yeah.
we break that up. Are we going to do
Well-
one at a time? There's already been multiple studies that have been done on that.
Okay, I just want to clarify, that was never actually like a motion or anything. When the opportunity came up to buy that land, there was discussion on what it could be. There was a lot of people feeling that land should just be used to expand Bear Park, because Bear Park would be landlocked once your division came in. So that was one thought of it. The other thought was, yes, we need to replace Village Hall at some point. And Veridian was the one that drew that stuff out on their website, to saying this is a possibility, which I guess anything's a possibility, but we never spent any money, to my knowledge, and Kevin, you can back me, I was off the board in between a little bit, on actually any type of study to put a facility in that area. The only study I remember doing is there was a junk area and there was some concern of contaminated soils on the 14 acres, and we did a study on that. I don't remember, now Kevin, you can correct me, if we spent any money on a study for putting Village Hall, police department and stuff there. Because I've seen like 3-4 different drawings of different combinations for that property.
Yeah, I think in general, the renderings were kind of a sizing thing of what could fit, what could go in there. But I mean, we paid to have somebody do that, I'm sure. There had to have been some money that was spent figuring that stuff out.
I think Mike Axon knows how to do that, because the last one that I saw, it was his plan where it was all park. There was
There
no.
might have, during the process, during the subdivision process, there might have been something from the engineer that did from Veridian or from D'Onofrio or one of our, or from our, not D'Onofrio, from our engineers. But I mean, I do recall seeing some, but I guess that's here nor there at this point. I think Jed's point is a good one, and that is one thing that we could do is sort of lump some of, at least look at lumping some of these things, looking for synergies or efficiencies, whether it's those two facilities, that makes some sense, and there's been some talk of that.
Mhm.
Maybe we can say, well, we can hire one company to do them both, and it saves us $5,000 because they're working on both of them. So let's, I think that's the kind of the lumping and efficiencies that we could offer this process.
Okay.
I also like what Deb said, which is looking at some of the bigger projects, or what I would say in this case is multi-year projects. So like those two particular ones, the Village Hall and the swimming pool, are multi-year projects. You got to invest in 23 in order to invest in 24, 25, 26, because it's expensive. So we may have to look beyond just next year, or I'm saying the next year, which is 23 in our situation. We may have to look at 24 and 25, especially with some of these other projects. And we might even want to look at those anyways to recommend, hey, let's move this one from 24 back to 23, or move this one from 23 to 24 for funding reasons, or because there's going to be a big hit and we've got something else taking a big hit in 23. Let's put that big hit in 24. So I think we can, I think we should go, we should just plan on going through this in detail, maybe in sections, maybe, do 23 first, and then the next meeting we do 24, and next meeting we do 25, and the questions we would ask ourselves are, and ask the committee are, is it still the priorities, same priorities for those items? Are we still going to use a proposed source of borrowing or grants or whatever else, and alternative sources and amounts? I think we can all probably say that we can add 20% to every one of those numbers on the list. So
if not more.
yeah, so I think that we could just sort of move this process along, so it's not like we need it tomorrow. It's just, no, we've been working on this all along, and this document is updated.
Okay,
Well, I guess that would be my question then, is where's the priorities, and do we, as a committee, come up with our own priorities based on the staff recommendations? Does the board want to provide the committee with priorities so we kind of know what they want us to work on?
well, I guess what I would like, I think what would be helpful is for us to look at it, what we believe are priorities, and share that with the board.
Okay.
And I'm
Well,
thinking for,
Jay,
oh, go ahead.
are you sure about that? I mean, I'm sure that this committee should be picking the priorities on what gets funded. I feel like this committee should be really looking at how much do we have, how do we spend it, where do we pull it from? And we talk to our staff about if their priorities are still the same. But I don't know if we want to tell the board, hey, we'd rather do the Melody Acres, park over the Market Street analysis, or Market Street multi-use trail construction, right? I feel like, is that really what this committee should be doing?
Well, I don't want to use the word recommend. I think would be helpful, I think it's helpful, is getting more people's ideas on what is what they feel are priorities, kind of going back to the very beginning on what your comment is, what services do they want, what value do they put on? So this is, a citizens committee. What we've been working on in the past has been what staff and board thinks, right? So I'm just
Okay.
wondering, I hear what you're saying, and I'm trying to figure out how we can get like this third leg into it, where it's a citizens committee, and maybe recommendation is too strong. Maybe we look at this, and I like digging deeper into the weeds, and I don't know. I got to think about it a little bit. And the same thing, do we do it by year, or do we do it by project? Because like you mentioned, a number of these are carryovers. They go for anywhere from 2 to 4 years. So, it'd be really choppy. And do we look at kind of the project, as a whole? I don't know. I mean, those,
I would
guess,
say by department, just to make it big picture easier. I mean, if we're looking at one park for equipment, we will be looking at different types of equipment, which will apply to a different park. So we won't have to go back and reinvent that wheel later on.
Yeah, but see, that's where I'm worried a little bit about. I think we're going off our path or going into someone else's lane. Because isn't that
Okay.
the role of the Parks and Recreation to recommend the equipment? I think we could look at the dollar amount, but I think we're crossing lanes if we look at what equipment to put in the park.
One thing I would like to do that is similar is looking at what we're already doing. Using an example from my house, we get bottled water from Century Springs. We spend X amount of money. Our other communities getting it from somewhere else for cheaper and better service.
Mhm.
Is an example is with Bill's new job title of bringing in economic whatever.
Development, yeah.
it is getting supporting the Chamber of Commerce at the level we do, still being as useful of a use of our money as it has been in the past? How do the businesses feel about it? How does the community? You know, are we using the services that we are already paying a ton of money for as well as we can be?
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm saying. What we're talking about now are capital improvements. Some of
Right.
the things you've mentioned are individual areas we can look into, but what you've mentioned so far has not really been capital improvement. And that's, I'm trying to get, I think I have some idea on where we can go with this. So I'm just throwing ideas that it was mentioned we go year by year, and that's a logical, easy way to do it. It's page this, page that. Or I'm just thinking because some of them cross different years, do we look at the project?
I mean,
Jay, go ahead.
for me, it always just comes back down to the priority. I mean, I'm looking at the 23 list here, and there's a number of things that I'm not even familiar with, like things that I haven't ever really even heard of. So, you know, if you're going to task me with figuring out where things are important, I mean, there's places in here, should we buy a new truck? Well, I mean, you know, I mean, if we need a new truck, we need a new truck. If you want us to figure out, is there a cheaper place to do it? I guess we can do that. But, you know, if we're not given any direction, I think, you know, then it comes down to, I guess, personal preferences of what people think they should work on or want to work on, unless there's some direction as to the priority.
No, we'll get direction for sure. Go ahead, Kevin.
I just going back to I think we should start by year, and I get what you said, and then we just need to identify which projects are sort of multi-year projects.
Okay.
And the reason I think that is because those multi-year ones are big. We're looking at capital improvement here, but I'm just going to say that I would recommend we go by year to start,
Okay.
knowing that, you know, because it's tangible or it's doable. And I'm going to throw this other thing in there that's going to messy this all up, but we're have the capital improvement project here, but we also have these big sewer projects and water projects and everything else happening at the same time. And maybe what we should be doing is looking at that more holistically too, and saying, how can we level off the incursions of, huge payments or capital structures. And so maybe we shouldn't be looking at the CIP in isolation. We should be looking at all of these, and maybe that is because that's something that I feel from the board level that we struggle to do, because it's really like it's right in front of you. We need to make a decision. We need water. Yeah. We need a new well. We made that decision, but we made that without really thinking about how it's impacting everybody on this with the CIP and all these other costs. And so maybe, if not, on this quite on topic here today, maybe that's something else that we should consider as well.
Well, that's interesting you brought that up, because I brought that up at the staff meeting. So I think it's the same thing with department heads and the village paid staff. We got to do exactly what you're talking about. So I think we will probably, I think that is part of looking at that as a factor. Well, why don't we do this? Let me just, I've heard where everybody's kind of coming from. Let me see if I can get some framing of it and direction for the group, and then we can look at that next meeting. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah, one additional point I would say is I think there should be a difference between stuff that we have money for, things we're borrowing, and also things that we have grants for. I mean, if there's grant money, that's something that maybe that we should work on that, because it's free money that we can get somewhere if we work on it. And then, I mean, I don't know where we are on borrowing, but I mean, maybe we should work on the stuff that we have money for first, that we know we're going to spend, and then the borrowing stuff comes afterwards, or maybe borrowing is more important. I don't know.
Yeah, we can, we'll put that that'll be all worked into the discussion. Yep. Deb, you had something?
No, just the other thing to think about is like the library shelves would be a great one that if, like with the leaf pickup project, if there's something out there that we can find a great deal on, it wouldn't be a bad thing to watch out for. Since there's lots of businesses closing and so many people are going to paperless. Maybe there's a way to come up with the shelving they need without as much expense as we originally thought.
Yep, I think those are the kind of ideas that we definitely would be looking into. Yeah,
I mean, if you
agree.
need a filing cabinet anytime soon, Department of Corrections is getting rid of hundreds of them. So,
All right, are we all comfortable with this? I'll try to work on this a little bit before the next meeting.
Yes.
All righty. Next is transportation utility update.
Oh, there's this. Deb, you want to go first? Do you want me to take it?
you can go.
Okay. Deb and I have continued to research. I'll give Deb a lot of credit. She's done a heck of a lot of work on it. And we keep sort of thumbing our way forward. I went through it today, what she had been working on the last week or so or two. And there's a ton of information out there. And Deb and I think it's worth, obviously think it's worth bringing to the committee in full, but we're sort of looking for a little direction on what we want to do. One thing that we will offer to do after this meeting, assuming you want it, is we will share the link to the Google Doc that encapsulates or that holds all the information that we've collected. Everybody want that? Or do you guys not? Because the alternative is we won't send that to you. Instead, we will develop or in addition to, not alternative, it could be in addition to. We will develop a PowerPoint. It'll have some links in it, I guess, for you all. And then we'll either take that to the board as is, as we somewhat like we did here with the tax document, the tax rate document. Or we will, well, I guess we're looking for direction on if we want to develop a PowerPoint, send it to you all, and you guys say, yeah, this is good. This is what we should show the board. Or if we send it, or if we look at that and you all say, no, that this utility, this transportation utility is dumb, like it's just not going to work here, then we don't present it. Is that the alternative?
Well, here's my feeling on that. I'd like to see a presentation
Okay.
so we get educated on it. And, I'm very much where, I think if we get a presentation that we all agree on like this, it goes to the board. I think educating the board on all these different things, even if they don't use them, is important because it shows that we've at least looked at them. And I think that's very important.
Okay, then I've offered to develop the presentation. Deb's gonna help, populate it as we get through. And then we'll have it to you and we'll present it at the next committee meeting. And, but what I'm wondering then is, do you all want the link to the Google Docs or the Google document?
I would be interested in having that link.
Because there's one video on there. It's about 45 minutes long that done by Rokert and Myrtle or whatever their names are, the consulting company that's really kind of pushing this or leading this, I will say, the leaders in our area. And that is so useful. And I think it's too long to send that to the board and too long to play it here. But it's a pretty darn good video and pretty helpful. So I would suggest if anybody does anything on this before the next meeting, and besides Deb and I, of course, it would be to watch that video.
Yeah, I'd be interested, very interested.
Okay.
Bobby, I'm sending you the link.
Kevin, by the way, if you guys had certain parts of that video that you wanted to show, we could potentially edit it down. So keep the key parts instead of trying to get people to watch 45 minutes. If you want to cut down to a couple 2 or 3 minute little segments that people can actually digest and we'll look at, we could probably do that. I don't know what kind of copyright issues may or may not exist. I mean, we would attribute it to them. I don't think that you'd have any issues, but
Good to have a video person on the call, right?
Yeah,
But I agree. I mean, I think, anytime we do this, do a presentation, because if you guys don't put together your findings in 5 years, somebody's going to say, hey, we should talk about doing this. And we start all over from scratch. So if you guys have done the work, it should at least be there and be on the record so that we can go back to it if it comes up again.
Okay.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah, and then we figured that's the way we wanted to go, and maybe had I frankly been on, had the time, I would have been able to do it by this meeting, but just haven't had it.
No, I think it's great even by next meeting. I mean, I think that's great. I think we're doing what we need to do as a village to look at all the different alternatives out there. I think
yeah,
it's very
we're
important.
kind of lucky as Wisconsin, because one of the sources I've used a lot was someone did their dissertation on bringing it to Clinton, Wisconsin, up north. So they went through a lot of or Clintonville. So they went through a lot of the Wisconsin laws and such. So it gives us a lovely
Huh?
pattern to follow.
Well, good.
Kevin, where was that video at? Was it on YouTube?
Yeah, I believe it was, Deb, right? I have it.
No, it's on their website.
It's on the Rokert website or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can find it, but I lose you guys. Oh, there you are. You're still there.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine either way. I mean,
I got the link here.
Yeah, Rokert and Milky website. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we would probably need to get it, talk to them about copyright issues or reuse issues anyway.
yeah,
Oh, I'm sure since it's based off of a service, it's in the chat that they provide for this. They would be ecstatic for us to show it to the village board in hopes that we would give them money in the future.
So we could embed a portion of the video potentially into a PowerPoint.
yes.
Sounds.
Yeah, I mean,
advanced.
if I can get access to it, I mean, if you're just taking little snippets out of it, I mean, it takes just a couple minutes to edit that out. And then what I would probably do is just send it to Bill. Bill can put it on the village YouTube channel. I mean, I could put it on my own, but then it's linking to my stuff. It's probably better to go onto the village one, and you just put a link into the village stuff, and then you just put a link in the PowerPoint, and then yeah, you can play it. Anybody else can access it there, and it can live there as long as you want it to.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I see, Deb, you beat me to copying that in there. Way to go.
I am very good at copy and
I
paste.
thought I was more tech savvy than I actually am. Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
Deb, for that offer. I appreciate it.
Anything else on this? All right, sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Future agenda items. We obviously are going to put the SIP back on. Does the other thing that was on that list that I think would be interesting to start looking at is, right now the village pays 100% of sidewalk replacement. And that's pretty unusual. A lot of other communities have some type of a percentage breakdown. And since we're putting a lot of sidewalks in, I'm wondering if we should take a look at that.
Probably. Yeah, it's definitely something that is usually passed on, at least in part, to the homeowner.
Yeah. And like, again, would be collecting the data on it, not making a decision, but that was one of the things on the list that was left to do.
Yeah, I thought the property that I have in Middleton, I thought they charged 100%. If something goes wrong with your sidewalk, you're responsible for it, because they went through a couple of years ago and marked up all the spots that had to be shaved down or completely removed or whatever, and we're sending out assessment charges for it.
Yeah, I know Madison is 50-50, but I thought one community around us, because I read it in a paper or something, they're at a 60-40 breakdown. But I think that's worth looking into.
And it kind of goes with the transportation utility fund, if I remember correctly, because I think part of it can go towards sidewalks. If I read so many blurbs.
Well, I remember part of it can go toward putting in sidewalks, I'm
Oh,
sure.
well, considering the state of Cross Plains, putting in sidewalks is a very big amount of money, and
Yeah, but that's paid by the developer right now.
On new developments, yeah.
Yeah,
right, but
right.
all the other sidewalks in town that we don't have.
No, like I say, I think, I think we have to, we should be looking at that. I think that's one that is probably prime for us to look at right now.
You have an idea how much we're spending on maintenance on those every year?
Couldn't tell you. We just do a big, he gets a maintenance amount and that covers sidewalks, gutters and streets. So again, we'd have to research that. I am guessing it's probably not a huge amount right now on sidewalks because most of our sidewalks are fairly new. But clearly that is going to be something in the future that's going to be a dollar amount that will be probably substantial. So I think it's always good to get in on the front end.
Yeah, I mean, and I would look at how long it usually takes before a sidewalk needs to be replaced, because if you tell most people, hey, look, you know, I mean, you've got new sidewalks, it's probably not going to get replaced for 15 years, but we got to put this in place now, otherwise we're not going to be able to do it in the future. People say, look, I might not even be here in 15 years, whatever, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
So if you have some timing that's to put with it, I think that may help.
All right, I will,
But we're not looking at the potential of adding more sidewalks to Cross Plains.
well, that's always in the discussion. There's nothing right now on the table that, well, I shouldn't say that. I guess we're talking a little bit about when Brewery Road is redone. That is one of the possibilities of having sidewalk there. There's some other possibilities that are out there instead of sidewalks. So I don't want to say no, but there isn't a plan right now to go into neighborhoods and throw up sidewalks.
I just wonder, as we grow, they seem to be possibly more important.
Well, there's some.
Let's put it on the agenda and we can talk about this when it's
Yeah.
on the agenda.
Yeah. So we will put that on as a future item. Anything else? All righty. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So
Motion to adjourn.
motioned.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I don't know which one did you? Okay.
I
So-
have you for both then, Kevin.
Yeah, pick whatever one is what you want. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Thank you very much. Some good stuff coming out of this committee. Very,
Thanks, everybody.
very.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, have a good one.